here's what it runs out of. You did fly, go to about 5 years. So you end up with the world's biggest drone company, which is, I don't know how many countries, 15 countries, starting in Africa, now all the US, different places. So this is a story of zipline, and I just brought some pictures and some information, and I'll ask you some questions, and you can jump into it, and tell me what you think. Interrupt me at any time. Sound okay? Yeah, yes, yes. Okay, so let's go to the next. So that's the student on the left, Keller. I don't know how old is he? He must be 38, 37, 36, something like that. And that's the guy who joined him, who was PhD and joined him later, PhD in mechanical engineering from Stanford, West Coast, which would have became co-founders of what became Zipline. But Keller was a student there, so let's go to the next. So the Zipline's headquarters are in San Francisco, right outside San Francisco airport. So whenever I go to San Francisco, which is maybe 3 or 4 times a year, first thing I do is I get out of the airport, I take an Uber, and 6 months later I'm at the headquarters just because I like it. It's like a giant warehouse. It's here in Google, there are 400 people, and people are in shorts and t-shirts, bringing their dogs to work. There's general chaos, a lot of color. And this is the mural as you walk in, right? So I like the mural. And it's a mural of an African lady who is carrying a zipline box. And the box contains either blood or plasma or vaccines, which will save lives. I'll say a bit about that. So I just like the fact that we walk in. And these days when you walk in, there is this picture, but next to it is a real-time image of how many lives have been saved by robots. Up to that minute. Right, so it keeps updating the material. Okay, let's go to the next. Okay, so this is a video, the first video. So we have to go to different. They're 2 short videos, play both of them. So this is a video of Africa. We may be interrupted by that.
Zipline is divided into different teams. We have the flight ops who care about pre-flighting planes, packing, loading the packages, and make sure that plane can fly. And then we have health ops. You can include more with the people with the knowledge of the blood product.
We make order to Zipline by using SMS or by using WhatsApp.
The package is handed to flight ops. You scan the package, and that's when we put the vehicle on the launcher. The vehicle will fly autonomously up to the hospital.
Iyo nabona ayo maraso nari gushobora gupfa. Igihe kuva basaba amaraso n'igihe yatugereyeho nta minota 5 irimo.
Nabona ayo maraso kumva naritabye Imana ko ari yagize umuntu.
We can avoid expiries, we can avoid stockout because the supply chain has improved. Blood is life, it is saving life for Rwandans.
Does this only exist in Kigali, like Rwanda?
No, so now, it started in Kigali.
Okay.
I'll show you some data on it, but it's now in, not always these numbers, but 10 African countries. Maybe another 10 countries around the world, and the US.
Okay.
So in the US, it's delivering, and that's a question I want to ask you later on. The US is doing a lot of healthcare stuff, it's also doing other stuff, like the CJ.
Yeah.
But it's in about 15, right? So but you have to start small, right? So just like Aspire is decent size now. But our start was, 50 students in Dubai. And we were just sort of talking to each other, just saying, and learning from that and so on. So, okay, so let's see. So the voice that you hear in this one, it's a little bit similar to the other one, but a little bit different. So I wanted to see it. Is John F. Kennedy's voice, in case it's familiar to some of you, just as an inspiration. Okay.
the energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And the glow from that fire can truly light the world.
Ready for launch. 598.
Airspace clear. Been good. Clear to the motors and launch. Ship line 598. Spinning motors! Launching ship line 598 in 3, 2, 1.
Arriving at Huntersville Medical Center. 598. Delivered to Huntersville Medical Center. 598.
All this will not be finished in the first 100 days, nor even perhaps in our lifetime on this planet. But let us begin.
So what do you guys think? What's up your mind? Ask some questions. Tell me what you think. What did you see? Innovation. Sorry? Innovation. Innovation. In what?
It's just outside the box thinking, right? It's something that you think of as a child, right? Yeah. Something like this, right? This girl made thought it's a video controller, right? So it's almost like creative thinking, innovative thinking.
Yeah, yeah. So, and remember, Keller, the guy whose idea this was, doesn't know anything about robotics. He just says robots are cool. Right? Like you told me, robots are cool. Right? You just, so, that's really gonna try out robots are cool. But I didn't get around to doing something. Okay, what else? Yeah.
I think that this innovation is beyond, it's saving lives. And I think that this business has a beautiful future to get a partnership with the pharmaceutical industry to create access.
With the pharmaceutical, okay, yeah. So other people in the healthcare ecosystem might say, hey, this might be a good way for us to distribute. So their start was in distributing blood and plasma and vaccines, especially blood and plasma because, and they started in Rwanda, which is, some of you know, is a country in East Africa. Rwanda is very clean, and it has bad roads. And so therefore, if you were a hospital in Rwanda and you would ask for blood, let's say somebody had an emergency, a lot of women died in childbirth because they lost blood and they needed blood. And so then the hospital would say, we need blood, but by the time the blood arrived on a motorbike, it would be 14 hours, 18 hours at best, and it's too late. So this way, you saw how this is what's happened. I need this plasma, this blood, this type, this quantity, and it takes a total of 6 minutes for them to load the blood on the drone, press the button to launch the drone. The drone flies to the hospital. The GPS trackers and sensors, drops the blood with the parachute, comes back in 36 minutes. So, what's the advantage of that other than accident? Except lives. Okay, yeah, you're saying you save lives, but just in a efficiency wasted sense, other than access. Yeah.
I think it saves a lot of time.
Saves a lot of time, right?
I think in a way, in a world where we live in, I think delivering faster saves some lives, even faster. Like, those types of things. Like, I was watching a documentary, like, last night.
Yeah.
And it just gave me the idea, like what they thought about. And like, what if there was something that was easily accessible,
Yeah.
right, and delivering really fast. I think that they're doing a great job. Now I'm thinking, what are ways for them to expand this, like beyond just the healthcare.
Beyond that. So let's come to that in a second. But I still want to ask you, just operationally, what are some of the other benefits from fast access whenever you need it? What would normally have to happen at the hospital before this? If they knew that blood was hard to find, what would they normally be doing to deal with that situation before the client came? How is somebody else doing?
Storing the blood, maybe?
Yeah, you have to maintain large inventories of blood, right? Because you never know when you're going to be able to get it with you. And what happens if you store blood? Store it properly. It just goes bad. Some kinds of blood plasma will last longer, some of it has a very low shelf life. And so you're wasting it. So you're trading off waste for access. You store a lot of blood, and most of it is wasted, or you don't store blood, but then you don't have it when you need it. But suddenly, because of the new technology, you don't need to store it. So it's also, when you think about the details, that is cheaper. It's a lot cheaper to send a battery operated drone to be a guy on a motorbike. It takes 12 to 14 hours to show up, and they are not show up on time. So, okay, what else? What other thoughts? Yeah.
I think that also the reduce or offering, reduce the pollution.
Reduce pollution. Yeah, no motorbikes, spewing smoke coming up and down the hills. Absolutely, pollution, for instance, is all clean energy, it's battery operated. So that is really clean energy. What else? What did you see in any other observations? So this thing is about 9 feet wide, right? So a bit more than my arms can stretch. It's about my height. It's about 50 pounds, the whole thing. So you can carry it in your hand. And what else do you notice about it? Oh, sorry, it's supposed to be my head. It's for this live stream.
The catchment mechanism.
Yeah, what about it? How does it work?
So it's very interesting, right? On the last video, it ended right after it caught it. I was like, oh, did they do bad at editing? The part where it crashed. But then I realized in the second video that that's actually how when it returns back, it brings back and catches it.
Yeah. So it's like a boomerang. It's calibrated, so you program which hospital it's going to. Right? So the way they set it up, Rwanda is a small country. So they set it up with a hub in the center of the capital city, and there are enough range for the drone. It's called a fixed wing drone. So it's not like a quadcopter that goes up and down. It just goes a fixed wing, and the glider gets to where you program it into the robot. It senses where it is on GPS, gets there, drops a package. It comes down enough to the parachute piece of package, turns around automatically and comes back home and program. And then the catching thing is it's just a rope. That it has to come back perfectly. Right? That's the precision of the operating system. What's difficult about that? Why is it difficult? Good.
I was going to ask more of a question, like, okay, to what maybe the ratio of failed returns that Zipline has had?
Almost zero now.
Almost zero.
Almost zero.
Because the thing is,
I mean, in the early days, it was 99%. But so what do they have to do to get it all fails through no fail? Experiment, yeah, but experiment with what? What does each experiment entail? What do you these 2 days? Yeah.
Experiment you want to try to figure like this is like the end goal. I tried to work.
Yes.
So you have to be
Okay, that's good. But in each experiment, what kind of experiments usually you want some data and you want to check the data, what kind of data are you using? You think? Just from looking at the video. You need data on weather, wind patterns, speeds, moisture, humidity, numbers. Yeah, weight, payload, the degradation of each component of the drone, how quickly it's wear and tear. Yeah, so at each experiment, you collect all this data and you try to program the computer so that it comes back exactly right. And you have real-time sensors on the drone, so they're communicating to the center, and the center can calibrate whether the drone is moving up or down, left or right, and you just get it perfect catch. Has anyone, by any chance, been on an aircraft carrier? Well, usually that's it. So an aircraft carrier, right? The U.S. has always enabled aircraft carriers. Planes are landing and taking off from the aircraft carrier, so it's called an aircraft carrier. Ships. But that's how the planes land. Planes land, and they have to just slide into a hook because there's no endless runway. Then they get caught by the hook. It's the same thing here. Here you get caught in this, and then what happens? What happens to it? Swing back down. Yeah, it swings like this. And then what did you see them do with the drone? Yeah, they broke it apart. So it's like a modular architecture, right? It's got pieces. The engine, the battery, the fuselage, the wing, the tail motor, the sensors. Why did they do that? Yeah. You can store it in bits and pieces. If one piece breaks, you can throw it out and swap that piece in the rest of it. If the technology improves for one piece, then you don't have to change the drone, just get a better technology to plug it in. Okay. What else? What do you guys think? It's Asian cable plus you. Where are you from? You study?
No, I think, well, yeah, that's.
You live here, okay, all right, that's fine. Any reactions? What did you think? You want to think some more? Okay. How about you guys? What's your reaction to the video? See the video? Or just see it? I think I've seen this exact same thing. I'm not really not for tracking. You're wrong. So I think it's very small. I said how it's it's automated, so it doesn't come back. It's automated. No, Apple and Meta have not been able to do this yet. I mean, they can if they put their mind to it, but they haven't yet. Amazon has been trying to do this for 10 years and has not succeeded yet, despite the fact that it has hundreds of billions of dollars spent on it. So it's something about the team, the experimentation, the attitude, etc. But so, as I said, this team is not a healthcare team and it's not a robot team. It's just two guys who decided that they want to do something with it. And why, I guess one thing to think about is why did they take blood and vaccine? Plus, they're American kids, right? And they are in the Bay Area and Boston. Why did they in Kigali?
Yeah, I'm really curious to know about that part too.
What do you say?
I think maybe like the other one that definitely have some something that so maybe time it somewhere where they're less likely to get the help.
So the Rwandans would be relatively more eager to get help, right? In America we've got a lot of problems, of course, but relatively speaking, our problems are a lot less severe than 95% of the world for the most part. So the Rwandans were much more willing to experiment. That's part of the answer. Okay. What else?
I mean, like, just the core values, it seems like they're focused on like ESG, sustainability in terms of like, the battery power, right? It's the lesser evil, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I would say just the core values, right? Similar to what you said, just on, like, if we have the opportunity to build a well, would I be building that well somewhere in remote America, or like I would do it in a country where I know that more people will feel support for that? And as to, why they started with blood, probably because in terms of, the impact that that'll have on lives of people as well as the co-founders, I feel like it's more meaningful. So they're gonna have a more resilient mindset of like, okay, let's go with you.
Okay, so something about the mission almost, right? One of the things you learn when you try and entrepreneurship is that 99% of the time things fail. You can see that even with Inspire. I mean, most of our first 5, 6 things were utter rubbish. It just didn't work. It either made no sense for the other else who were taking it, or we screwed up the delivery, or we thought it would be easy to find the students and they didn't show up. Any number of problems. So that's normal. So, for all the nice pictures I'm showing you in videos, this is a result of, thousands of hours of experimentation. So in this sense, this idea of having resilience is definitely a piece of it. Because of but remember, they're experimenting in a very high cost place. They're experimenting in there isn't a higher cost place than the Bay Area. It's expensive. Finding engineers, finding scientists, and so on. And they're experimenting in Boston, that space that are premium. There's something crazy about experimenting in high bucket. There's something crazy about experimenting in super high cost place and then trying to sell your service in East Africa, all this, right? So why what's the logic? So, yeah, pretty simple.
If it's proven that it can work in a high cost environment, then just this example is obstacles. I guess the logic is it's high cost environment. Obstacles that we can cover.
Well, no, but sorry, just to be clear, they're not actually deploying the drones in high cost locations. They're paying all their salaries to very highly paid governments and British. But they are selling their services to poor people in East Africa, the Congo. Usually what you say is that usually what companies will do is they'll say, let's hire engineers in Eastern Europe or in China or in India, where you pay their salaries, you take the product and sell it to Americans. This is kind of flipping the model and said, my question is why did they feel compelled to do this completely new thing, to flip the model on its head? That's the question. Yeah.
I see that it would be aligned with the purpose of enterprise. Maybe it's a purpose enterprise. I know.
Sorry to interrupt you. Keller has no money.
Okay.
It's like you would. Maybe he's just going to college financially. So he needs to make money. Okay, this is not a charity. This is a profit-making enterprise. For a profit-making enterprise to voluntarily and by design say, I'm going to get the highest price engineer and serve the poorest people, sounds to me like he's nuts. So what's the resolution of this? Yeah.
Is the sustainability of the solution. So like if you can implement in this factor, it's both first the most easier way to implement it in a South Africa, like as the first marketing location. And then long term to see the sustainability of this project, you can implement in any other country. So when you first begin, you begin the easy location.
Which is the easy location?
Like, compared to US, it's easier to implement the
whole
project.
Yes.
Yeah, you begin with the easier implementation first.
Yeah.
Then when you see the outcome.
Sure. Yeah, no, that part I completely agree with, right? That to do this kind of thing in the US would have been like not a snowball's chance in hell.
Yeah.
Because the FAA, Federal Aviation Authority, there is no chance in God's good earth that they would let you experiment with drones. Absolutely not. I mean, just the bureaucracy would kill you over and over again. So I still on board with our energy company, and we try to get drones just to inspect our wind turbines remotely, so we don't have to send technicians up very dangerous ways. And the FAA won't let us do that. It says we don't have the safety protocols for drones. So as a result, what we ended up doing in that example was we did a lot of tests in Central America, where somebody allowed us to do the tests, and we brought the data to the FAA and said, look, we did it, it works. Now we're allowed to do it. So a little bit of that is what's going on, is that let's do it in Rwanda, where, because what you were saying, they really need the blood to be delivered to the women who are otherwise bleeding to death in childbirth, and other reasons for mortality and morbidity due to lack of medicine and blood. And they're willing to experiment because the alternative is death. So you would use that data. So that part's okay. Well, the reason they use the engineers in the Bay Area is it's easier for them to experiment. It's costly, but there's a whole ecosystem, right? And they can experiment. Of course, they know it's very high cost. It just means that you better pray you get it right soon enough that you don't burn a hole in your pocket whatever money to do things. But this is, I forgot to say, this is a profit-making enterprise. So it's not a charity. It's intended to be commercially viable. But the idea is to say that can we do something with technology that is commercially viable, and therefore more people can invest in it, we can expand it, provide services to people. That's all, yeah.
The intended buyer would be the government.
Good question. In this case, yes. Why do you think they gave it to the government as opposed to individual hospitals? Yeah, that's exactly it. So earlier, the first thing that they did was they tried to get hospitals to pay every time they ordered blood. It was like, I order from Panera, sandwiches, and depending on the number of sandwiches I paid for it on my credit card, but it became there is some sandwiches. Or generally healthy with some less so. But they were going on an a la carte basis, and it's too hard. So eventually they just went to the government and said, flat price, all you can use drones, just pay us for it. So they removed that factor. But that's a good part. Okay, any other reaction? So what I want to emphasize to you is that these are two kids in college dorms with zero money, doing robotics, saying, we think this is a cool space, and let's go learn about it. Let's get it right. Let's experiment. We're going to screw it up 3-4 years in a row for sure. And then eventually we can get up. It doesn't always work. I do a lot of startups, and there's quite a few companies. 90% of them fail. But 10% of them work really well, but it's quality enough. We should be doing this and other things. So this is how it is. Not that really. This is how it is. So these are no. Any other reactions?
I guess I just want to say that keep on hammering that point that he had no money, but he had an idea. So I'm thinking to myself that if I have an idea, I already have no money, but I have an idea. Maybe I can start doing something, getting connections, forming connections, and start building something.
It's up to you. It depends, and the only thing it depends on is your, of course, always have to be done. Of course, not permitted discovery, but there's lots of stuff outside your control. And I've had lots of mentions collapse because market collapses, like funders say, don't have need, we can't keep investing in you right now. Come back in 2 years, right? Well, not back when things are better. But in that time, the other falls apart and it's all so not basically this. But in the main, it's finding some way to some small experiment to run, to try things, and see how far you can go. And it's not for everyone. It's a function of your risk tolerance, your personal circumstances, what other responsibilities you have, and so on. So I'm not making it out here the romantic thing that everybody must do this. I'm saying that possibilities are usually more than you immediately imagine. That's the way that I would encapsulate it without overstating it. So you mentioned that you thought you saw this at Facebook or Meta or something, right? That you was so I have a question coming out of that, which is their headquarters are in the Bay Area, next to San Francisco. It's open, anybody can go and visit and see what's going on there. How easy do you think it would be for someone to copy this?
Fairly easy.
Fairly easy, yeah. Why do you say that? What would you do if you wanted to copy it? How would you?
I mean,
Let's say you decided that you wanted to copy this and take it to this lady's 3 islands. Like Jamaica, Haiti, what would you want to copy?
It seems like open book, you know,
It is.
as they're probably looking for investors, right? So the playbook is out there, right? As you said, the headquarters is kind of an open playground.
Yeah, so that's what has to see it.
Right, so I think with a little bit of effort, find out quite a lot. The mechanism is, the system is pretty easy, it's like a free part. Yeah.
Easy, how to do business as this business. From my point of view, I'll try to find maybe whatever, a negative thing that's in this small project, try to find a solution for it. And then basically find a team that could build me drones, and I will try to find out, but maybe if they could do 10 countries, I'll try to do 20 or 3 countries. Why the business? So I can do it.
Okay, so what he's saying is that you try to find weakness in the existing model and try to do better. And then go to, someone has to have a reason to invest in you, right? So if you go to, first of all, if you go to someone and say, this guy did it, can you give me money so I can do it again? Someone's gonna do that. You know, so he's already doing it, he's probably gonna do it better than you because he's cut a lead 7 years. If you try to do something, it'll take you 2-3 years to figure out how to do it. In the meantime, he'll come and squash your effort. So I would never give you money if you did exactly the same thing. I might give him money because he's found a couple of weaknesses and say, okay, I'm gonna do it better, so that's fine. So, yeah.
I think that we were never be able to copy an idea. We just capture the moment that value for price is in right at the moment.
Yes.
We never get all the idea of the vision that just the owner has.
Okay. So, so one thing to think about personally, I think it's not impossible to copy because what he's shown is that it's possible. Prior to him doing this, as we started out, the first comment was this is such an out of the box idea, right? That it didn't even occur to you. You said that, yeah. But now at least he's demonstrated that it's doable in principle. So that's a big step because the possibility that this is impossible is no longer there. That's a big step. But actually, even walking in and walking around the premises and even talking about the engineers, you would never get 95% of the they're in their heads, in the code, buried in the architecture. That is the result of thousands of experiments with tens of thousands of hours. I'm going to show you one more video. I'll show one video, which is about something that they're really proud of, which is safety, right? When you think about how much thought goes into designing this and the safety of this, it's like a 3-minute video, and then I'll show you one more of something they're doing in the US. And I'll ask you for your reactions. I think that will be out of time. So we got 2 videos. Let's see them both together.
My name is Keenan Weirebeck. I'm co-founder and head of product and engineering here at Zipline. We run the most advanced drone delivery service in the world. Zipline is dedicated to helping doctors save lives even in the hardest to reach places. Our planes crisscross the skies every day, delivering critical and life-saving medicine to people in need. With so many flights flying every day over both populated and unpopulated areas, we've put a lot of work into building safety features into everything we do. In our operations, for example, we use cutting-edge technology like computer vision in each pre-flight check to make sure that plane is ready to fly its life-saving mission. We are in direct contact with aviation authorities, enabling them to track every one of our flights. We use advanced algorithms and software testing to ensure that all our planes know where they are and where they need to go. To maintain the highest standard of safety, we've built redundant systems into our aircraft. The aircraft has 2 motors. If one stops working, it will keep flying on the other one. And the same is true for our plane's power, communication, and navigation systems. We've built backups for each, so if one stops working, the other kicks in and the plane keeps flying. Our aircraft are designed to fly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in all kinds of weather and over all kinds of terrain. All the plane safety features work automatically on board the aircraft. From the ground, you won't even be able to tell they're working. All except one, and it's the system we are most proud of, the parachute landing system. We know that sometimes our planes might encounter challenges in flight, or even our redundant systems are not enough. For example, aviation authorities may tell us to clear the skies in an emergency. Or unexpected extreme weather might require one of our planes to land right where it is. If such an event happens, that plane will deploy a large parachute, enabling it to gently land. The plane has another key safety feature, frangible design. The styrofoam shell of the plane and plastic parts like the tail are designed to break on contact, minimizing damage to anything on the ground. Here you can see that frangible design in action after parachute landings during operations. Those frangible parts are designed to be easily replaced, so that plane can quickly get back into service, saving lives. We believe in the work we are doing at Zipline, and we are committed to making and operating the safest system of its kind in the world. People's lives depend on Zipline.
So they're doing, so in the US, what they've done is, just said that this whole Rwanda experiment was the very first so the live stream. The Rwanda experiment is the very first thing they did. Then they went into 13, 14 other countries. Recently, we came to the US, they joined venture with Walmart, with a bunch of health systems, sweet green salads, all kinds of other stuff. So, question I want you to think about it is what you're going to see exactly that year for them to move in this trend. So this is a long video, but I'll just play 2 minutes.
I cut my finger making lunch, so I placed an order for some Band-Aids a couple minutes ago, and now they're 4 seconds away. That is a nearly silent drone system that can deliver a package from the sky right to my backyard in as little as 2 minutes with dinner plate accuracy. And as far as I'm concerned, that's basically teleportation. This is the very near future of package delivery from a company called Zipline. It's been over a decade since we were first promised drone delivery that looked like this, and to be honest, I was never that stoked about it because I couldn't imagine that anyone would actually want something that big and loud with dangerously fast spinning propellers landing anywhere near their house. And that was a bummer, because with the explosion of people using Amazon or food delivery apps like DoorDash or Instacart, billions of doorstep deliveries are now happening every year. But when your lunch only weighs a few ounces, driving it to everyone with these 2-ton gas-powered vehicles is wildly inefficient, bad for the whole planet, and not to mention just really slow. Drone delivery would not only take a lot of cars off the road, but it would be a lot faster than a car. It would be fully electric, fully autonomous, and it would cost pennies worth of energy per delivery. And with Zipline, because the droid that lowers the package can move laterally in any direction.
The first video was intended to show you how much engineering goes into this being zero danger. Right? So in every system has 3, not just redundancy, but double redundancy. So if system 1 fails, system 2, system 2 fails, system 3. That's one set of backups. Then the worst case, if let's say someone says, the government of the country says you better clear the skies. Really clear the skies is they just activate a parachute on the drone, the whole drone just falls. And you don't want 55 pounds falling on your head, so the way it falls with the parachute, and if it impacts anything, it breaks it in pieces because of the design, so nobody gets hurt. So the reason I think, again, that this would be, even if I wanted to do this on the best day, probably it would take me 2 or 3 years with the best resources, assuming someone gave it the money which they want. But that gives them a 3-year window to keep on doing the next thing. You're always, that's what you were saying, you're always stepping behind. So that's one thing. My question to you is what you saw in the last video, that's real life. It's working about 8 cities. They're delivering banana sandwiches, band-aids, COVID tests, just about anything that fits within a 5-pound packet. And it takes about 2 or 3 minutes. The way it works is a different drone architecture, not a fixed wing drone, but a quadcopter vertical takeoff and landing. Essentially takes off, comes to about where you want the package, hovers 400 feet in the air, which is beyond where you can hear it. So zeroes down, and then a separate robot comes down, drops it. So we think smart, dumb, technically cool, practically dumb. What do you say? What is it? But it eliminates the need for housing. So employment economics. Yeah, you need fewer drivers for sure. But then you have less pollution and less cars and you have less traffic jam. Okay, so that's one set of factors, yeah.
Fire, it's so cool, especially.
It's so what's it?
It's really fire, especially because they're like.
It's really fire, that means it's good. Sorry, for generation.
No, that's the only thing. You don't see that.
This is really, I mean,
You don't see like being placed into real life, which I think being placed into real life is what they're doing.
Any other people think this is mad or anything? What's about it?
What this reminds me of, I know somewhere in China they have driverless taxis now, but helicopter taxis.
Yeah. Helicopter taxis are extremely efficient, way, but they do have some.
Yeah, but it's like driverless. It's kind of like, it reminds me of that.
Yeah. Except this is for like everything, banding, you get a banding. You need one banding, you can order a banding, and it'll show up in 2 minutes. Yeah.
I think that it's very cool because I think that this business model find the cost effectiveness. You know, that middle point, that balance point brings the opportunity to create profit. You know, maybe the cost that this company has is so much,
Accurate, yeah. It's accurate, yeah. So, we don't have much time, but I'll just say a couple of things. I don't know what's the third thing, first of all. Because think about, like right now you're seeing all the Amazon trucks looking around and irritating people, except when it's coming to your house, then it's okay. But otherwise it's irritating. But you know, you have like drones that big in the sky, some people get irritated. You're gonna look up and you can see drones sitting around. That could also be irritating. So I don't know, I think they're gonna get some pushback. But there are plenty of areas in the United States even that are remote, where this makes all the sense. Rather than having drivers, you know, the way they say it is currently, if you want a banana sandwich, usually you have a 2-ton truck belching smoke, right, coming hurtling down, and then they drop a sandwich and they leave. It's insane. People who came from Mars would say these guys are crazy. They're burning up their planet. That means so resource crazy. So there are use cases for it. I'm just not sure. But in the end, it's about experimentation. That's what you're seeing there is people experiment. And this may be wrong, but for sure it's contributing to their learning about how to be a different kind of delivery company that could both save lives as it is after we started, also potential revolution, also potential gridlock, change of planning. So things keep changing. Yeah.
I was just gonna say in the name of experimentation, that makes sense. But you see the shift in like Rwanda that's delivering blood and vaccines, and then we get to the USA, right? And boom, it's a narrow sandwich, right? Where it kind of seems like, over here it's almost like a solution to a problem that we shouldn't even really be having. It's like you do not need a 5-pound package delivered. Like, please go walk to CVS. And if you're in like a bigger city like Houston, it's only a 5-minute drive. At that point, what's really the ESG conversation, right? For like the everyday person, when there are, like, not to get into like celebrities that might take the private jets, somewhere just for like a quick concert, right? That's the real ESG concern, not really with the everyday person who's
perfectly sensible general set of questions. The concerns is you guys perfected amazing life-saving technology, right? Why not keep doing? By the way, the companies worth billions of dollars just based on delivering blood and vaccines, billions of dollars. I mean, billions a week from nothing in 10 years. So why? They're a profitable franchise, they're saving a lot of lives. Why don't you go to 80 other countries and do that? That's one response. That this is fine, but it seems a waste of effort. That's one set of responses. Another set of responses is that this has a different social purpose, which is lowering pollution, congestion, streets. It's not a legitimate. You have to decide which seems better. I'm not going to tell you it's better than the story. Yeah, but we get the story. Okay, anyway, any other last comments? Okay, fun.
And I thought that, they are going to have a lot of fun and see how the market reacts, because they are creating a necessity, and they all want to see how we, the trend to catch the person that want to keep going and ordering this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so maybe some people will get addicted to the possibility of ordering and having 30-second beer or something. It's possible. Separate set of questions is whether it's a good use of society's resources. Okay, I'm going to stop with that. My purpose here was to just trigger a conversation about something that I knew a great deal about because it started in the dorms next to me. And, I'm very close to them, so I watched the whole story unfold. And I think it's two kids who are creative and gutsy and have made something happen that certainly has been very useful, at least on the thoughts possible. And this latest thing, I'm not personally a fan of, right? Because it brings it too much. But, I'm entitled to my views and they're entitled to their views. And so we let everything fly. Yeah.
Are you an advisor or an investor for that?
I'm not for this particular.
Okay.
By design. So the reasons I just and but I'm very close.
Okay.
Okay. So this is what we do at Aspire. Okay. What we do is we get people together, except we do it in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, soon close to 1 million people at a time in many countries, and we get people to speak to each other virtually and engage in discussion. Usually, sometimes the facilitator, sometimes peer-to-peer discussions in a 10-week program, and the program is improved in iterations. We've now run 5 cohorts a year. At some point, we will become a continuous cohort, a continuous. You can enroll anytime. And just right now, we have 5 10-week cohorts a year. So maybe 3, and it's a growing family. So some of you have done it already. Some are in the middle of it and some are new, and so spread the word and join and have fun doing it. Okay. Let me hand off my bosses. So,
Thank you, Tarun. We just going to take a couple of seconds to just celebrate a few volunteers that we have among us today. So we have at Aspire, like Tarun mentioned, we are on a goal to reach 1 million students by 2027. This is a mighty goal and it's not possible without our volunteers. Among us today, we have our community leaders, Gary and Laura. If you want to come up, we have a
Okay, welcome across the water, not so far. So I'm Ariel Laura Mateer, and I actually mentioned to a few of you I did my BA MA at St. John's University in Government and Politics. My minors were Africana Studies and French. I ended up doing my Fulbright in Cote d'Ivoire, West Africa. French is also my first language, so it was great being there. My research was focused on the liberation of women and children through entrepreneurship. So what you presented here is the language that I love. I love things about founders and things, these stories. And I taught at a school, English entrepreneurship and etiquette to 4,000 girls. It was all girls school over there. Afterwards, I came back to the States and I realized that I was not 2022, I was 2023. And I was looking for other ways to engage with other university students and people who were really around the world of social impact. So after I did the Aspire Institute program, I had so many folks who were like, well, I want to do something like this. And I told them about it. A lot of people enrolled. I went back to St. John's University very recently to go speak. And I was telling them about the program because they want to also institute foundational, how do we call a chapter over there for the students. And so I look forward to supporting the students at St. John's and the neighboring universities there. We have a Johnny over here. Which one was it? It was you. Okay, what year are you? Okay, girl, what are you studying? Wow. And I think that's also something that attracted me to Aspire, the varied studies that everyone has. So I come from government and politics, but I somehow fell into entrepreneurship and that world with founders and being around them. And I love the fact that you can integrate your knowledge with other people from other countries. I know I have my Haitian table over here, my people, and I think it's so beautiful that we have people, they just recently came and they're able to be here and find community already. And so when you think of the realities of other countries, and this is what led me to do in US community leadership, was seeing how I can impact my community out here in New York City, and then even more succinctly, those that I identify with, which I shared earlier, especially throughout Latin America and the Caribbean, because that's home to me. And so this is part of the reason why I joined the US Community Leader Program. And I'm very honored and blessed to be amongst you all. I won't be with you long, but I want to share this because I can feel it on my heart. I have a little cousin who just passed away with sickle cell anemia. My little brother has sickle cell and he's in Haiti. And we just buried him on Sunday. That was oh no, not Sunday, Saturday, the day before yesterday. And Nate was amazing. He was 23. He lived a very exemplary life. I want to share this with you because you all are young. I am still 26, I'm not that far from you all. And so we were talking about vision, and your name is Dennis?
Yeah, Dennis.
Dennis, sorry. Dennis said, well, I have an idea. And the only thing that could separate you from doing that thing that can change everyone's life is the finance area. Because you said, I may not have the money now, but I have the idea. And I'm a believer that there's a verse that always pushes me. And even as I spoke about Aspire at St. John's, I said, the verse says, write the vision, make it plain. And though it lingers, it will come to pass. So I really charge each and every one of you. Even Nate had a vision, some were accomplished, and even post is that we have 700 people come out from across the globe to support him. And so whatever your vision is, do not be limited by the fact that the finances may not be there, because there will be someone else to sponsor the vision. But continue to speak about that. Write it down, make it plain, because although it may linger, it will come to pass. So I leave you with this word of encouragement. I thank you for creating this, because what you have poured into us will trickle down for generations. And thank you for this honor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'd love to acknowledge your accomplishments. I go to work college, I'm majoring in business. That's why our program has just like livestream and I go to our next college where we have a huge demographic and I just want to help you guys grow.
Thank you.
That closes our session announcements and closes our session for today. Well, the formal closing of the session today will be, we'll be sticking around for an extra 30